All right, y'all, we're about to start. You see these banners on the ground? We're gonna make a circle around this, and we're gonna have all the banners up. We want people to see these messages. We want people to read Globalize the Intifada. We want people to read, we will free Palestine within our lifetime. Honor the martyrs of Palestine. Free! Free Palestine!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
There is only one solution!
There is only one solution!
Intifada revolution!
Intifada revolution!
There is only one solution!
There is only one solution!
Intifada revolution!
Intifada revolution!
Intifada, Intifada!
Intifada, Intifada!
Long live the Intifada!
Long live Intifada!
Intifada, Intifada!
Intifada, Intifada!
Long live the Intifada!
Long live Intifada!
From New York to Gaza!
New York to Gaza!
Globalize the Intifada!
Mobilize the Intifada!
New York to Gaza!
New York to Gaza!
Globalize the Intifada!
Mobilize the Intifada!
And we will free Palestine!
We will free Palestine!
Within our lifetime!
Within our lifetime!
We will free Palestine!
We will free Palestine!
Within our lifetime!
Within our lifetime!
Resistance is justified!
Resistance is justified!
When people are colonized!
People are colonized!
Resistance is justified!
Resistance is justified!
When people are colonized!
People are colonized!
Free! Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
Israel, you can't hide!
Israel, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
We charge you with genocide!
Israel, we know you!
Israel, we know you!
You imprison children too!
You imprison children too!
Israel, you can't hide!
Israel, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
We charge you with genocide!
Israel, we know you!
Israel, we know you!
You imprison children too!
You imprison children too!
Palestine is our demand!
Palestine is our demand! down.
If the prisoners don't get it,
Shut it down.
Out there.
it is right to rebel.
It is right to rebel.
Israel, go to hell.
Israel, go to hell.
It is right to rebel.
It is right to rebel.
Israel, go to hell.
Israel, go to hell.
Settlers, go back home.
Settlers, go back home.
Sheikh Salah is ours alone.
If the rock is ours alone.
Settlers, go back home.
Settlers, go back home.
Sheikh Salah is ours alone.
If the rock is ours alone.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Occupation no more.
Occupation no more.
5, 6, 7, 8.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Smash the settlers, Zionist state.
The settlers Zionist state.
1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more.
1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more.
5, 6, 7, 8. Smash the settlers, Zionist state.
5, 6, 7, 8. Smash the settlers Zionist state.
1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more.
1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more.
5, 6, 7, 8. Smash the settlers, Zionist state.
5, 6, 7, 8. Smash the settlers Zionist state.
Not another nickel, not another dime. No more money for Israel's crime.
Not another nickel, not another dime. No more money for Israel's crime.
Not another nickel, not another dime. No more money for Israel's crimes.
Not another nickel, not another dime. No more money for Israel's crime.
Israel, what do you say? How many kids did you kill today?
Israel, what do you say? How many kids did you kill today?
Israel, what do you say?
Israel, what do you say?
How many kids did you kill today?
How many kids did you kill today?
Israel, you can't hide.
Israel, you can't hide.
You're committing genocide.
You're committing genocide.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Open up the prison doors.
Open up the prison doors.
5, 6, 7, 8.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Smash the settlers, Zionist state.
Smash the settlers Zionist state.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Open up the prison doors.
Open up the prison doors.
5, 6, 7, 8.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Smash the settlers, Zionist state.
Smash the settlers Zionist state.
We're going to take a break from chanting so we can talk a little bit about what's happening in Palestine. I want everybody to hear, so if we can get people just a little bit closer, make a full circle with all the banners touching. First, we're going to talk a little bit about each of the 4 freedom fighters that were recaptured after escaping, after doing the heroic escape. That these 6 prisoners from Palestine, Palestinian prisoners that you see over here in this banner, pulled off from the so-called Zionist maximum security prison. They left the prison at night and they dug their way out with only a spoon. So if you have a spoon, put your spoons up. Let me see your spoons. Put your spoons up. This is what they were doing in Palestine. The spoon became a resistance symbol. People were joking that Israel's going to start confiscating spoons from people. You know, it's illegal to hold up a Palestinian flag in quote-unquote Israel because they don't want us to feel like we can be free. They don't want us to feel like we can ever have that freedom. But now the spoon is going to be a symbol of freedom for the Palestinian people because guess what? You can kill us, you can imprison us, you can lock us up, you can take us away from our family members, but we're still going to find a way to be free by any means necessary. As you can see, their names are Zakaria al-Zbedi, Mahmoud, Arda, Yaqub, Qadri, Muhammad, Arda, Manadir, Infi'ad, and Ayhan Kamamji. These 6 prisoners escaped and enjoyed a couple of days of freedom outside of the Zionist cells. Why were they in there for the first place? Well, like many and most Palestinian prisoners, many of these prisoners were not even charged with anything, let alone being found guilty, let alone being given a fair trial. They didn't even charge them with anything. Because in Israel, they have something called administrative detention, where they can just say that they're going to imprison you for 6-month periods at a time that they can renew indefinitely. So they can imprison you for 6 months, and then another 6, and then another 6, and then another 6. And for some people, they've been doing this for over 10 years. And with this imprisonment, they don't even have to tell you why you're in prison. They don't even have to charge you. You don't even know what you're accused of or why you're there in the first place. So a lot of these prisoners are already subjected to that. And then other prisoners are given life sentences for daring to have the audacity to protect their family, to protect their land, to protect their homes from being demolished. Because resistance and because standing up for Palestinian freedom, standing up for yourself as a Palestinian is illegal. So of course, they had no other choice but to defy the Zionist entity and break free from the prison systems, just like we hope all Palestinian prisoners will, and just like we hope the prisoners of this country too will also. And that's why we have that banner. The prison's revolt from Attica to Gilboa, 1971 and 2021. This internationalism is not a coincidence. We've been putting up the banner and the call to globalize the Intifada all summer. And who would have thought that a prison rebellion, a prison escape would happen around the same time? 50 years later. From Palestine to here. And in the past, they used to say, from Attica to Ashkelon, because there have been many prisoners' revolts in Palestine before. And it has been said that the Attica prison rebellion here in New York inspired the prison rebellion in Ashkelon, a Zionist detention center, where Palestinians were inspired by the prisoners, the revolutionaries in this country, fighting for their rights, fighting to be free, and did the same thing. 50 years ago, the Attica prison uprising broke out in New York on September 9th, 1971, when a group of incarcerated freedom fighters and revolutionaries seized control of the prison to demand better conditions and protest the murder of George Jackson just weeks earlier. George Jackson was, of course, a leader of the Black Panther Party, a communist revolutionary, a political prisoner who was shot and killed by prison guards at San Quentin in California. When he was 18, he was accused of stealing $70 and sentenced to 1 year, from 1 year to life. He spent the rest of his life behind bars. He became politicized on the inside through his studies and by joining the BPP. While he remained incarcerated in California for the last 11 years of his life, he traveled the world through his study of language. He studied Arabic, Chinese, Swahili, and Third World history and revolutionary theory. In the aftermath of his death, the San Quentin prison authorities searched his cell and inventoried every item, including his personal library, which had 99 books. One of those books was called Enemy of the Sun, the poetry of Palestinian resistance. And it is his death, it is his murder that sparked the riot in the Attica prison in New York. And that rebellion, that riot, sparked a riot and a rebellion in the Ashkelon prison, where the Palestinian prisoners were doing the same thing. 4 days after September 9th, on the 13th, the uprising came to a violent end when state police and prison guards launched a premeditated genocidal attack on the freedom fighters inside. And within 15 minutes, 43 people were killed in cold blood in a hail of indiscriminate gunfire, including 32 prisoners. In a newspaper from Tel Aviv, and we're going to post this on Instagram later. We have a photo of the original copy. It said from Attica to Ashkelon. The way they reported on it, talking about how Palestinian prisoners were terrorists, talking about how the prisoners here were terrorists. Of course, we're going to disregard that. We know that we're not terrorists. We know that we're freedom fighters. And they label freedom fighters terrorists to prevent people from joining those struggles. But they made those connections and they saw them 50 years ago. They said 480 Arab terrorists, half of them sentenced to life imprisonment, rioted for 2 hours at the top security prison at Ashkelon before wardens restored order. It said at the end, prison commissioner Arya Nir said that the action might have been sparked by the riot at Attica prison in upstate New York. And the Arab prisoners receive daily newspapers and listen to 5 radio newscasts each day. So we know that these Palestinian prisoners were watching and they were inspired by what's going on here. The struggles of the people are united. Whether or not we put out the call to globalize the Intifada, our ancestors, these freedom fighters and revolutionaries have been doing this long before we have. And that is why we must be unequivocal in our support. When we say that Palestinians should be free, that also means Palestinians in jail. And that means every single one, no matter what. Every single Palestinian is a political prisoner because they are in a system where they are vilified for their identity. And that is not different from what we see here in the United States. Every prisoner here is also a political prisoner because we are in a political system that vilifies people for being indigenous, for being black, for being revolutionary, for being anti-capitalist, for being against oppression. So when we say globalize the Intifada, that also means the prison walls. From Attica to Gilboa, from Attica to Ashkelon, and wherever prison rebellions may be. We know that the prisoners are the vanguard of the movement, paying the ultimate sacrifice with their lives to fight for our freedom. And so I want you all to look at the posters of these prisoners, of the ones that are being held. Mahmoud Arda, he's over here, but somebody else might also have his poster. You can hold it up right here. 45 years old from Jenin. He escaped from the Gilboa prison on September 6th in one of the most heroic prison breaks in history, humiliating the Zionist entity, evading occupation for 4 days before being arrested. Yaqub Qadri, also one of the 6. Muhammad Arda, over here and there, also one of the 6. Munadir and Fayyad, his photos right here and over there, also one of the 6. And Ayham Kamanji. But then we also have Qaid al-Fasfus, whose photo I think is right here. He's 36 years old from Durra. He's been on hunger strike for 59 days, so for 2 months he hasn't eaten in protest of his administrative detention. And if you remember what I said at the beginning, that means he's being held without charge, without a trial. He hasn't even been charged with anything. Miqdad Kawasman, his photo's right here, 24 years old, from Al-Khalil, on hunger strike for 53 days. Also an administrative detention, being held without charge or trial. Ala Al-Araj, his photo's right there, 34 years old, from Tul Karam. He's been on hunger strike for 35 days. Also because he's been held through administrative detention. Hisham Abu Hawash, 39 years old, from Durra. Somebody might be holding his photo. We post all of these online as well, so you'll be able to see them later. But he's been on hunger strike for 27 days. Also, due to administrative detention without charge or trial. Ra'ek Bisharat, his photo's right here. 44 years old. He's been on hunger strike for 22 days, being held without charge or trial. Shadi Abu Akil, the first photo right here, 37 years old, from Bethlehem, on hunger strike for 18 days in protest, being held without charge and without trial. These are just a few of the names. There are close to 4,700 Palestinian prisoners who, some of them, they don't even care to give a charge or trial, most of them actually. But then even the ones who are charged with something, even the ones who are given a trial, we know it's not a fair trial. Palestinians are not tried in civilian court. They are tried in military court. And that 99% of cases in Israeli military court against Palestinians end up with a guilty conviction. 99% of people, Palestinians, in this Israeli court are found guilty. So you know what? They're not even going to bother. They're not even going to pretend that they're charging us with anything and pretend to find us guilty. They'll just say, hey, we'll take you, we'll kidnap you from your home, we'll throw you in prison, we'll torture you, we'll starve you, we'll let you starve, and we're not even going to make up a reason. We're not even going to make up an excuse to do this, because the world doesn't care, because Israel gets to do what it wants. It gets to kill Palestinians all the time. It gets to kill 67 Palestinian babies, and the most Palestinians get is the New York Times, acknowledging this happened, but not saying it's wrong. It's people pretending to feel sorry when 67 Palestinian babies die at once, but every single day, how many Palestinian babies, how many Palestinian children, women, men, and we don't just feel sorry for the babies. We are enraged every single time any Palestinian is killed, because they are being killed to establish a Zionist entity that has no right to exist in the first place. When they're killed now, nobody talks about them. That's the most we get, is some momentary attention that doesn't result in actual change, that doesn't result in condemnation from the mainstream media, from all of these institutions of the Zionist entity. But we don't need that, because we have the people listening. We have the people who know the truth. These governments, these universities, they may not be on our side, but we have the people on our side, the people of the world. And right here, as people in the belly of the beast, where they teach you to do anything but support Palestine, to do anything but support Black liberation, to do anything but say that you want to abolish the settler state. We are resisting this simply by being here, by standing together, by showing people in Palestine that they are not alone. That we will not let being in the belly of the beast distract us from the truth of what's happening, and that we will not allow our privilege to distract us from fighting for people who are locked up behind bars, who can't come out and protest because they're locked up, whether it be here in the U.S. or whether it be in Palestine. They paid the ultimate sacrifice by giving up their lives, by being locked up. The least we can do is continue that struggle forward. It's to keep the attention on them, to keep all eyes on them, and to keep chanting for Palestinian and for all prisoners, for the freedom of all prisoners, for the abolition of all prisons, for the abolition of all settler states, from Turtle Island to Palestine. And keep that in mind, building up to the 17th. This is not the first or last protest. I see so many familiar faces. We've been going at it all summer. And next week is the culmination. So bring your friends, bring your family, post it every single day because we're going to uplift the call to free all Palestinian prisoners. We're also going to uplift the call to shut down settler Zionist organizations in New York City. We're going to uplift the call. We're going to uplift the call to globalize the Intifada from Attica to Gilboa. And we're not going to stop. So we really encourage you to keep educating about the 17th, to all come out. Today is just a way for us to get more knowledge and training leading up to that day. And again, we encourage autonomous action. Some of y'all may have seen on our page, somebody hit up a billboard in NYC and graffitied "Globalize the Intifada" on it. Our stickers are all over Williamsburg, all over street signs, all over mailboxes. We want this message to spread everywhere, as far and as wide as possible. So keep uplifting the hashtag, the message, globalize the Intifada, and come through. We're gonna take to the streets today because we want people to see what's happening in Palestine. We're not just gonna stay in the park. So today is also gonna be a training for marching and for taking the streets on the 17th.
Marching without a permit. I know everyone's been marching, but it's important to say it. People take on different levels of risk. You know your risk.
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine! From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free.
What do we want?
Justice
When do we want it?
now.
Freedom!
One solution.
Intifada revolution.
Intifada revolution.
Intifada, intifada.
Intifada, intifada.
Long live the intifada.
Long live the intifada.
Intifada, intifada.
Intifada, intifada.
Globalize the intifada.
Mobilize the intifada.
I want to hear you say Palestine!
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 Gaza!
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 Free all prisoners!
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 I want y'all to keep your energy for the 17th. I want to see you with 3 friends. I know some of you already came with all your friends. So thank you for that. But I want to see you with your friends and family, so we're not going to hold you for too long, because the 17th is going to be the day of action, a global day of action, to talk about the prisoners, to talk about globalize the Intifada, to talk about Gaza, and whether it's still being bombed. It's been being bombed for the last several days. It's escalating. Who knows what level it could get to by then? But we can't wait until after it happens. We have to be mobilizing before. We have to be building a movement at all times, mobilizing at all times. But I want people in the park to hear what we're here for today, to hear a few chants for Palestine. And then remember, I want to see you all on the 17th at the protest that we're going to announce. But I also want you to take matters into your own hands with your friends, with your groups, with your organizations, autonomously or however, to bring Globalize the Intifada to every corner of New York City, and hopefully globally too. Use the hashtag Globalize the Intifada, use the hashtag Free Them All, so we can follow on these posts. Send them to us, send them to Decolonize This Place, send them to WOL Palestine. We'll repost it on our story. We want to make this a movement that doesn't just end. We want it to last. We want people to hear about Palestine every day, not just when it's in the news, not just when it's under attack. Because as long as Israel exists, Palestine is under attack. Every Palestinian is under attack. So we're going to keep fighting until Israel is abolished, until Zionism is abolished, until prisons are abolished. And we will resist until we return. We will resist until liberation. We will globalize the Intifada from Black, Indigenous, Palestinian, Mexican liberation, and stand together until we are all free. Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
From the river to the sea,
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
We will free Palestine
We will free Palestine
within our lifetime.
within our lifetime.
Resistance is justified
Resistance is justified
when people are colonized.
when people are colonized.
1, 2, 3, 4, open up the prison door.
1, 2, 3, 4, open up the prison door.
4, 6, 7, 8, smash the settlers' dynasty.
5, 6, 7, 8, smash the settlers' dynasty.
It is right to rebel.
It is right to rebel.
Israel, go to hell.
Israel, go to hell.
Israel, you can't hide.
Israel, you can hide.
We charge you with genocide.
We charge you with genocide.
Israel, we know you.
Israel, we know you.
You have prison children too.
You are prison children too.
None of the echo, none of the do it. No more money for to be mobilizing all summer. We did that. You saw that. Bring that back to your campus. And just like we said it, you're going to see Palestine will be free in our lifetime. Put it in.
Allahu Akbar! Takbir! Allahu Akbar! Takbir! Allahu Akbar! Takbir! Allahu Akbar!
Put it in your calendar. Put it in your story. Text people right now. Hit them up. 17th, Columbus Circle. As an indigenous people, we know how disgusting that statue is. And that's why it's one of our starting points. Because it's one of the first things that we're protesting. An anti-indigenous symbol in this city should be an affront to all indigenous people, to all people who stand for indigenous liberation. 4:30 p.m., Columbus Circle on Friday, September 17th. See you there. Bring your friends. Post about it and save your energy for that day. Thank you for coming out for Palestine, for the prisoners, for Gaza. Keep uplifting these prisoners. Keep the attention on them. Let Israel know we are watching. We are watching.